What I want to do here, for anybody who may not be familiar or aware, is highlight what I consider to be the most fundamentally flawed component of the decision reached by Michael Gove in the Department for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs of England in the United Kingdom in relation to electronic training aids and their use for companion animals, specifically for dogs. And if we take aside the fact that there are no victims of any abuse being caused by the use of or misuse of electronic training aids, and that there are no prosecutions ever for the misuse of handheld electronic training aids, and that the major welfare organisations who are supporting the ban on electronic training aids are unable to demonstrate efficacy or reliability or indeed any form of competency in dealing with dogs displaying behaviours for which electronic training aids are often used or sought as a resolution or a partial resolution to. We also have the fact that, of course, that the government went against their own public consultation majority, which was quite heavily in favour of not banning electronic training aids. And then we come down to another thing, which is the bit that I want to talk about here, which I consider to be probably the most nonsensical, illogical, impossible to justify aspect of that decision-making process, and that is the differentiation made between electronic containment systems and handheld electronic training devices. So for people who don't know, let's say she sat in my garden there, and this gateway here represents the boundary to my property. And my property, let's say my property is this field here, or even fields beyond, so I've got huge property. So I'm sure that most people would accept the fact that it is improbable, so unlikely or probably impossible that I'm going to be able to erect standard fencing, conventional fencing, right the way around a property of this size, because for cost or the terrain, time taken, etc., it's very unlikely, and the maintenance of that is very unlikely that I'm going to be able to do that. So an electronic containment system is a brilliant solution for situations such as that, where I can contain the dog within the whole or part of my property, the boundaries of my property. And I do that by running a wire around whichever part of the perimeter of the property I choose, and the dog wears a electronic training collar and is taught that the wire represents a boundary that the dog must keep away from if it is to avoid the static pulse delivered by the electronic training collar that it's wearing. And there is a training process that goes with that. So basically the dog is taught via avoidance that if it approaches a certain area, best keep away from it because you receive a static pulse otherwise, a corrective pulse otherwise. That's fine, okay? That is considered to be keeping the dog safe from danger, keeping the dog safe from harm, keeping the dog contained within its own property. It's perfectly legal, it's pro-welfare, it's very logical, it's compassionate, it's responsible. That's absolutely fine. The fact that the collar that the dog is wearing and the stimulus that the dog receives, the electronic pulse that the dog receives, is exactly the same as a handheld electronic training device. In fact, in many instances, the containment system collar that the dog wears is probably more of a stimulation than is felt by a handheld electronic training system, though there are other situations where it's slightly less. It depends on the dog, it depends on the circumstances, and it depends on the way that the dog has been trained. Some collars are able to automate themselves in accordance with incremental increases in collar sensation until the dog stops and they automatically remember where they came in, and they repeat that the next time over. But ultimately, the dog is still receiving static stimulation, electric shock, if you like, for a misbehaviour, approaching a boundary which represents a significant threat of harm to the dog or to perhaps motorists or animals on the other side of. So let's just bring her over here. Good girl, sweetheart, come on. I'm now a criminal. If I have a handheld system, and I decide that I'm going to choose when is the best time to deliver the stimulation to her, on this side of this boundary, I'm criminal. That is now illegal, it's inhumane, it's barbaric, it's cruel, and it's anti-welfare. So I'm going to bring her back in again. Go on, sweet. When we're in here, we're perfectly legal again. Do you see what I mean? This is how ridiculous the decision-making process of Michael Gove in the Department of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs is. This is how ridiculous it is, because we've accepted that the stimulus itself, the stimulation that the dog feels, is actually harmless. It actually doesn't harm the well-being or the welfare of the animal. It serves to protect, promote and enhance, preserve welfare and well-being. It keeps the animal safe. It keeps animals on this side safe. But as soon as that animal crosses from this side to this side, and I, as the lawful, legally required, compassionate, responsible, loving owner of that dog, decide to employ exactly the same stimulus, perhaps at a lesser level than is felt on this side, so that I can teach that dog to refrain from doing things or to do other things instead, which either threaten or benefit the welfare of it, is illegal. This is criminal, this is law-abiding. The difference is this, is a perimeter. So once the dog is out, you're on your own, sweetheart. Once you're outside there, should you break through that for anywhere, I cannot legally stop you. That's what we're saying. Even though I'd employ exactly the same means that I'd do so on this side, if it comes to this side, good luck. And good luck to the motorists that are going past, and good luck to the livestock that are in the fields nearby, or the deer or the rabbits or the birds or whatever else. Good luck to the other dogs. Good luck to anything, because I cannot legally stop you when you've broken through there and gone at distance in that direction. If you fail to respond to me, then you're over to nature. Let's see what it deals you. Do you see how ridiculous that is? There can be no logical, no sensible, no justifiable reason whatsoever as to why there is a differentiation made between electronic containment systems, which are fantastic, they keep animals safe, and handheld electronic training systems, which are fantastic, they keep animals safe. Ludicrous.